If you're in your 30s or maybe in your 40s and you haven't bought a home yet, if that's something you think about a lot and it bothers you, well, don't click away. I made this video just for you. I didn't buy my first home until I was in my 30s. I went through the experience of watching other people my age buy homes and start families. I remember it made me feel like I was maybe a little behind schedule, like I was letting life pass me by, like I was somehow kind of inadequate. So that was my experience, and I went through all of that without half the obstacles that are in front of the people who are in their 20s and 30s and even in their 40s today. Now, maybe you haven't bought a home yet, even though you'd love to, whether you want to admit that or not. Like I was, maybe you're feeling like you're missing out or that you're behind schedule. Well, I'm here to acknowledge there's some things stacked against you that older generations didn't face, and I'm here to tell you that it's okay. It's not too late. You still have time to own a home if you want to, and everything can work out just fine. Okay, so what are some of the things that your generation went through that mine didn't? For the record, I'm a Gen Xer, so my generation was the one that came home to an empty house after school, the one that was told to go outside and not come back in until the streetlights came on. You know, we are the ones who drank from the garden hose in the backyard and kind of grew up without a manual, so we had to figure a lot of things out on our own. And while we had our share of challenges and setbacks, there are still certain things that younger generations or younger people today are dealing with that we didn't. So let's maybe just start with the economic conditions in the early 2000s. Now, we all lived through them, but they all hit us, kind of in different ways. Now, in 2001, the oldest millennials were entering the workforce in the middle of the dot-com crash. And then just a few years later, their younger peers graduated into the Great Recession in 2008, so we know is the greatest financial crisis in U.S. history since the Great Depression. Right at the time when careers were supposed to be starting and growing, the job market cratered and opportunities kind of vanished. Of course, what didn't vanish was your student loans. More on that later. All right, the housing crisis also affected younger members of your generation, even those who weren't ready to enter the workforce. Now, maybe you were one of those younger folks. You weren't graduating from college, but you may have lived in a home that was affected by the financial crisis. Maybe your parents struggled to keep things afloat. Maybe you had to move out of your family home because your family couldn't afford to keep it. That would have been an experience that was all too real for you. And I think it may be something that people forget to take seriously now. Living through that has got to leave a mark, maybe a sense that owning a home might not be a safe investment, but in fact, it may be a financial disaster just waiting to happen, the minute that things don't work out the way you planned. So I can understand all of that. If I'm describing you, I hope to help you see things a little bit differently if you're open to that. Let's talk about those student loans, shall we? My generation was the first that was told sort of societally that a college education wasn't an option, that it was a rite of passage and that it wasn't negotiable. The message was loud and clear. Graduate high school, go to college, get a degree, get a good job. There you go, you're all set. And that was mostly what the world looked like for us, at least in suburban America where I grew up. And until pretty recently, that probably was pretty close to what the world looked like for you too. The path you were told to take didn't change. What changed was the price tag. If you're still watching this video, chances are you're carrying student loan balances your parents couldn't have imagined. Your monthly payments may be as much as the mortgage payment on their first home. So in a certain way, you're already carrying the equivalent of a mortgage payment and you want to buy a home of your own. It's almost hard to see how the math makes any sense. All right, well, let's step back to our timeline for a minute here. So housing crisis, yes, years go by. Maybe you're finally starting to make up some ground. By 2019, homeownership rates were rising nationwide, and we were kind of in a recovery from the housing crisis. And then what happens? By the way, we got a really strong economy, almost as strong as it's been in decades. And then, of course, as we all know, COVID happened. So the distortions that were caused by COVID, they were seismic. It's not really a news flash. Remote work exploded demand for housing, and with the federal government pushing interest rates as low as possible to stimulate the economy, well, housing prices went through the roof. Home values went up around 40% in just 2 years. And if you wanted to buy a home and you hadn't yet, well, it probably just felt like another door being slammed in your face. So, all right, We wind things down from COVID. Eventually, the world recovers from the pandemic, and life goes back to normal, sort of, right? Because now housing prices are through the roof. Rates have gone from 3% to 6%. Now, not only does the house you want to buy cost more than ever, there aren't any houses to buy anyway because so many people have 3% rates they're not willing to trade for a 6% rate on a new home, so they just stay put. If you do manage to buy, not only are you paying more for the home, the monthly payments are even higher because interest rates have doubled. And in the meantime, you keep getting the message, hold on, rates are coming down, you can buy when rates drop, it's too expensive now. Listen, folks, I've been in the mortgage business for a long time. I'm not a newcomer. Even I've been waiting for over 3 years for rates to come down based on what all the experts have told me. And the only thing I can say for sure is that over the past 3 years, rates haven't dropped and houses still keep getting more and more expensive. I'm no longer counting on rates to come down. Do I think they will eventually? Yes. Maybe. But it doesn't really even matter right now, right? Because if you buy today and rates go down tomorrow, you and everybody else on the planet are going to get in line to refinance to a lower interest rate. But there is one thing that is worth considering. If you do on your home and rates drop, the value of your house is probably going to soar. Think about all the buyers who are on the sidelines right now, just waiting for rates to go down before getting into the market. There's going to be a flood of new people wanting to buy with all these lower interest rates, and that's going to drive prices up for everybody. Maybe you were planning on being one of those people. It all seems pretty bleak, I get it, but it doesn't mean that you're locked out of the market. The door isn't locked shut to you. It may be harder to open, but it still isn't locked. The purpose of this channel is to talk about where we are, what that really means for you in your hopes of owning a home, and why it could be a life-changing decision for you. Why the people who figure out how to open that door now are going to be in a fundamentally different position financially in just a few short years compared to those who keep waiting for conditions to get better. The main takeaway from this video, you're not behind because you haven't bought a home. You haven't failed at anything. You're navigating something genuinely harder than anything the previous couple of generations had to deal with. It's not an excuse, it's a fact. Understanding that is the first step towards fixing it, but only if you want to. My name's Stan Brusoski, and among other things, I've been a mortgage professional for nearly 30 years. I've been involved with thousands of transactions, and I've seen just about every home lending scenario you can imagine. I wrote a book titled You Can Do This, the No BS Guide to Financing Your First Home. It's available for free at the link below the video. Chapter 6 goes over some of the loan programs that can help solve your affordability problem. Go ahead and click on the link, download your copy today. In the next video, we're going to talk some more about why housing prices have to keep going up, despite what some pundits say about bubbles and corrections. The system's rigged to keep prices going up, so if you're waiting for the next crash before you buy, well, you could be waiting for a really long time. If any of this describes what you've been living through, well, I want to hear about it. Drop it in the comments. I'd love to read your story. If you're finding value in these videos, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. I'm Stan Brusoski, and I'll talk to you soon.